Aloha, and welcome to our Catch the Waves of Investor Protection Investor Education Week premiere presentation for our working adults. Today, my name is Gloriana Acapo. I am from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs Office of the Securities Commissioner. I am the current acting investor educator as well as a multimedia specialist. Today, I am here with
Hello, everyone. My name is Rano Call. I'm the Securities Education Assistant helping Gloriana with this presentation today.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. So today I will be talking to you folks about investor protection against affinity fraud and Ponzi schemes. Over the course of this presentation, I will be going over the roles of our office as well as uh, affinity fraud and Ponzi schemes, what they are, what to look out for, some tips to protect yourself, as well as sharing some of our Hawaii enforcement cases. I have some helpful resources to share with you folks, as well as the contact information if you are needing any assistance from our office. So we are part of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. The Office of the Securities Commissioner is a small part of our department. See, the Department of DCCA oversees about 54 different industries and the licensing of many vocational professionals. Our office is within the Business Registration Division, which handles all the businesses for the state of Hawaii. The Office of the Securities Commissioner is just a small part of the department as a whole. So the role of our office is we are your state regulator for securities fraud. We are the only state office that enforces Hawaii securities for the state of Hawaii. We help the investors statewide on every island. And investment fraud happens on every island and to all kinds of people. Our office is here to help before and after a fraud has occurred. So we pride ourselves on the three services we provide the public. We regulate, we protect, and we educate. So what does this mean? As state regulators, anybody who is dealing with securities products and the professionals who sell these products have to be registered within our office. If you're dealing with somebody who is not registered, they are not allowed to practice within the state of Hawaii. It is illegal. So call our compliance branch to check that the securities broker dealer and or investment advisor that you are working with is registered. And when you do this, have the person's first name, last name, the firm that they're working with um, available, or middle initial if you have this. You can contact our number at 586-2722. And when you're checking for a person's registration, you're also asking if there's any complaints against them, more like information on their background. To check the background of your investment professional on the national level, because we act as regulators on the state level, just for the state of Hawaii. On the national level, our partners from SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, as well as FINRA have a database available that you can check the registration and the proper licensing of your professional. This is available at investor.gov or brokercheck.org. So ask and check investor.gov. So at this website, you can check whether the person is registered. As I mentioned before, um, there are three things that you're looking at, especially when you're looking at the background of your financial professional. You're trying to see if there's any disciplinary actions against them. You're trying to check if there's a history of customer complaints against this person or even the firm they're working for, and see if there's previous employment, how long that they have been working within the industry. So this is a little screenshot of what the website looks like at investor.gov. And as you can see at the bottom part of the screen, there is the check your investment professional. Here's a little close-up look. And when you're checking, you can look up the person as an individual, or you can look up the firm. See, and we have an example here with a Jordan Ross Belfort, and we typed his name in, and automatically we get a call back if he's either registered or not. And as you see here, he was barred by FINRA or SEC. And there's another link here to get the full report, and this actually links you directly to FINRA, and that'll show you like a full report on his information with his CRD number and other information if available. So this is a great resource that is available for the public. And if you are looking at starting to, because as you as working adults, you're starting to look at investing or wanting just to keep your options open, to always make sure that you check your professional. So is the product registered? So find out whether the company is registered with the SEC. Make sure that they provide access to the important information. There is a database of, I believe it's called Edgar, at a database at the SEC's online about the corporate filings of different items, and you can definitely check to see if the product that they're selling is registered and cleared. So scams often involve unregistered companies. So that's something definitely a red flag if somebody is trying to sell you securities, if somebody is trying to deal with you. If they're not registered, that is a red flag, and you shouldn't deal with that person or give them your monies. So brokercheck.org is another website, and you can, similar to the SEC, you go on there and there's information, different fields where you can enter the CRD number, the name, the firm, as well as the state or location. And here you can get the full report on the background of the professional you're looking at. So our office, we protect Hawaii investors by our enforcement arm. So call our enforcement office to report investment fraud, you and or any of your family members, or the state securities, if there's any violations for the state securities laws. We have investigators and lawyers on staff who can assist you, who can take down your information, make sure that you have like the proper statements, you got all your documentation together, so they can help you. Call our number on the screen is 808-587-2267. Or if you're on the neighboring islands, you may call 1-877-447-2267. We educate the public. We give presentations such as these to empower you with information so you can make better financial choices, can make better financial decisions. So when a scam artist is out there trying to take advantage of you, that you can stop the conversation, you can check their registration, and make sure that you just gather all the information to protect you and your monies. We have informational packets and a ton of resources provided by SEC and FINRA and other financial literacy companies like CFPB to help you make your better financial choices. So for the month-long campaign that we're having now, we do have investor-wise packets available. We still have a few bags left, right, Ryan? So if you're interested, at the end of this presentation, we have our contact information, and you can definitely give us a call or send us an email, and we can get those packets out to you. So looking at affinity fraud and Ponzi schemes, and how you as an investor can protect yourself, and to see what the warning signs, what the red flags are out there. We're going to start with affinity fraud. So what is affinity fraud? Affinity fraud is a group type of fraud, when a person comes to you and say, trust me, I'm your friend, I've got a special investment only for you. So they kind of like build a sense of trust, and they take advantage of that trust. So they infiltrate a group to take advantage of the trust and the relationships in that group. To break down, it is an investment scam that preys on members of identifiable groups such as religious or ethnic communities, the elderly or professional groups, even union groups that you may be a part of, if you're in the government or if you're a teacher, or if you're one of the labor unions. The some people can take advantage of those relationships and say, just because my coworker invested in this and it worked out for them, this could be good for you as well. Just because it was good for them doesn't mean that financial product would be a good fit or match for you. This scam relies on the trust and friendship in groups and people who have something in common. The approach of affinity fraud is it is human nature to trust people who are like you, and con artists are increasingly targeting affinity groups to gain trust and then steal the savings of members of those groups. So the con artists use their relationships to get their friends to buy into fake investments, often Ponzi schemes. And this is true, especially in the Hawaii community. You wanna to keep your friends and keep your family bonds strengthened. You want to support your friends. You want to support the people that you know and you work with. Some of the people who are trying to promote these investment professionals, they might be getting scammed and not realize it as well because they're not checking. So good thing deter a con artists like taking advantage of you, especially in these group settings, is to check, to double check. So some targets of affinity fraud: elderly seniors, military groups, church members, union members, of our working adults. We have ethnic groups, professional groups, as well as athletic groups. So affinity fraud can happen in any setting. You may think like, you're working and you know professionals who are trustworthy, but scams happen to all types of people. So the results of affinity fraud: in many cases, the recruiting members or even the leader of the group becomes a victim, which turns out to be a Ponzi scheme and or some other fraud. So like what the con artist would do is they'll target the leader of a group, and then because that person has like certain power within the group, and they can talk other people into signing up or to working with a certain person, but without proper checking, being diligent and making sure that this person is legit, scams may happen. And the person who you looked up to, who recommended this advisor or broker dealer, may be a victim as well. So remember, investigate before you invest. So no matter who is selling the product. So it could be like, Barack Obama trying to sell you something, but you should always check and make sure that the person is legit, like the business that they're working for is registered with their office, and that the product they're selling is registered as well. So, what ways to avoid affinity fraud? Never make an investment solely based on the reputation or a friendship that you have or the group that you belong in. So always do the due diligence to research this opportunity before you put monies down. Do not let a friendship stop you from getting the offer in writing and asking hard questions. So just because you know somebody and you know somebody well doesn't mean that they know what's best for you and your financial and your finances. So other ways to avoid affinity fraud: you should be suspicious if you are told not to share details of an investment with people outside of the group. If they're wanting to say, oh, this offer is only for you and don't tell anybody about this. See, that is a red flag that you should have in your mind, because why is this person trying to hide this information or trying to kind of isolate you from sharing the information with others? That is a red flag. Use common sense. If just because someone made money or claims to have made money, doesn't mean that you'll make money too. So there's always some sort of risk involved. So report affinity fraud. Report affinity fraud, even if the scam artist is your friend, because it goes down the line. If they get one person today, then you don't know how many other people they can defraud down the road. So report it when you see it. Excuse me. So like report it even if it's your family or your friend, or somebody in the community, because it could help save another person a lot of heartache. So gather as much information as you can when reporting, including the person's name, their address, investment documents, investment promotional materials. So they have something that they're giving you. Um, just make sure to take note of that and keep that with you when you're reporting the scam. See, don't be a victim of someone's greed. Protect yourself from affinity fraud. I have this little graphic down there. It's a group fraud. You could be a church or a senior group, but at the end of the day, the con artist that is trying to infiltrate your group is going to find ways to take monies from the people in your group, and that can cause you a lot of heartache. So, we're looking at Ponzi scheme. So, what is a Ponzi scheme? Well, oftentimes when through affinity fraud and they try to sell you something, it could often be a Ponzi scheme. So, what is a Ponzi scheme? So, a Ponzi scheme is named after Charles Ponzi. So, back in the 1920s, he employed a fraudulent investment operation where he paid new investors with money from earlier investors, and then it kind of just like built up this scheme until it broke and he went out with millions of dollars. So understanding what it is. So this is when a Ponzi promoter comes to a person and be like, "Hey, I have this great investment for you. Um, Give me your monies to me," and the person, investor A, gives like a $5,000 to the Ponzi promoter, and to keep investor A full, the Ponzi promoter pays investor A a little bit of the money each month, and he calls it like it's an investment, it's growing. So instead of the money's actually growing, he's just taking some of the money and giving it back to investor A. And for it to grow, because investor A is making money, somebody else comes in and they's like, oh, they're interested and they're putting another $50,000 in there. And the promoter is taking money, a portion of the money from the new investor to give to investor A. So it's kind of like getting money from Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. And so everybody in the scheme kind of feels like they're making money, but the promoter is actually keeping the funds to himself, and then like feeding a little here, a little there, just to kind of keep the people in the scheme with an air of that they're making money, but there is no investment. There is no interest being made. It's just him taking monies from another person. So this will grow. Investor C comes in with another $50,000, and the promoter takes money from investor C to give a little bit to investor A and B. So he's just taking money from newer investors to pay the older investors until it becomes a point where the Ponzi scheme, there's no way for it to build anymore and it starts to break. So this happens when there's victim ignorance. The best friend of financial criminals. Fraud succeeds because people hear and believe the promises of the promoter. So like they're in there and they're like, okay, they kind of um, don't take the documentation, don't make time to look to see if like any of their statements are their records are up to par. So they're putting their full trust in the promoter, and they don't investigate the promoters or the investments being sold to them. But sooner or later, the scheme is going to collapse. So as the number of total investors grows and the supply of potential new investors dwindles, there is not enough money to pay off the promised returns to cover investors who try to cash out. So as they try to cash out, there's no money because the promoter kind of used the funds for himself, or there was no investment there. So the scheme starts to collapse with investors losing all or most of their investments. And then there's the burst of a Ponzi scheme. So the Ponzi bubble bursts when the con artist simply cannot keep up with the required payments of fake interest. So there's no money there. He's just taking money to pay the new guys, just taking little segments of the money to pay everybody else. But in many cases, the promoter or the con artist at play has spent the investment money on themselves for personal expenses. So they deplete all the funds and they're not running a legit business. And it's sad to see when that happens. So how to protect yourself against Ponzi schemes? So, like I said many times during this presentation, is always check the registration of the individual selling of the investment by contacting our office. So that's what we're here for. Our compliance branch is available. We have staff on hand who can double check to see if the person is registered with the state and selling securities properly. Also, we'll let you know if there's any complaints against them as well. So beware of promises of unrealistic returns. Diversify. Diversify everything. So don't just stick to one type of investment. Another thing is don't rely on the reputation of word of mouth alone. Always investigate. Always make sure that you does it cross your T's and dot your I's. Make sure that you get all the information that you can, all the proper documentation that you can about a certain investment. Understand your investment. Make sure that the person you're dealing with can answer your questions, and if they're giving you vague answers, and that's another red flag to look out for. You should be able to understand where your money is going and how it's being spent. So verify the details of the investment. Also beware of vague or overcomplicated explanations, as I mentioned, and report fraud if you feel that you're being defrauded. If you feel like there's that you need to put in a complaint, there's something violations are occurring. So report investment fraud. Contact our enforcement branch. We have a staff on hand to help you. So red flags of Ponzi schemes, the investment is exclusive for only a special group of people. So if they try to give you like this urgency of like, this is only for you, you got to do this now. And that's kind of like the play of con artists, and they're trying to get you to sign up real quick. That is always a red flag. If somebody's trying to rush you into making a decision, that is a red flag. That is a reminder to stop, slow down the conversation. So there's poorly written information. If you're getting documentation and there's like typos or things are unclear, then that's another red flag. They have vague or overcomplicated explanations. Somebody's talking to you, be like, um, you know, it's too complicated. Don't worry about all this red tape. I'll take care of it. See, that's another red flag. So if a person is not helping you understand where your money is going, then you shouldn't be dealing with them. So investments promoting no downside or risk is also a red flag. It said, all their guarantees, 100% guarantee. There's no such thing as 100% guarantee. There's always a chance of risk, especially when dealing with investments. So the pressure to sign now and get your copies later. So always make sure to get copies of your documents. Anything that you're signing, any contract that you're going to read, make sure to get copies. Make sure that you have ample time to go over the documentation. And if they're trying to rush you to sign it now, make sure you can tell them, like, stop the conversation, just walk away. Said, and also make sure that if they are registered or if they're not registered with the state of the office, the state, with our office, then you shouldn't work with them. Okay, so just a recap on what Ponzi scheme. So Charles Ponzi, so this is the guy that the word Ponzi scheme is from. He defrauded about $10 million out of people in the 1920s. And if you can think about like how much that actually is in the 1920s, it's such a large amount of money. We have the Bernie Madoff in the 2008. So some of you folks might have remembered this scam. He defrauded about $65 billion from investors. And remember the three N's. If you're looking to work with people, who's next? Not me. How much? Nothing. And when? Never. So that's kind of like the mantra, especially with looking at Ponzi schemes. So don't fall into those victim traps. Right. So we're gonna share just a few cases of Hawaii enforcement, cases of investment fraud. So we talked about a little bit about like the different scams that are out there, the con artists that are out there. But what are the conversations like? How are these do these people try to get investors to put their monies aside? So we have an example here with a video clip from Wolf of Wall Street. So if you can, we'll have it here on the screen.
Well, reason for the call today, John, is something just came across my desk, John. It is perhaps the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months. If you have 60 seconds, I'd like to share the idea with you. You got a minute? Name of the company, Aerotime International. It is a cutting-edge, high-tech firm out of the Midwest awaiting imminent patent approval on the next generation of radar detectors that have both huge military and civilian applications. Now, right now, John, the stock trades over the counter at 10 cents a share. And by the way, John, our analysts indicate it could go a heck of a lot higher than that. Your profit on a mere $6,000 investment would be upwards of $60,000. Exactly, you could pay off your mortgage. John, one thing I can promise you, even in this market, is that I never ask my clients to judge me on my winners. I ask them to judge me on my losers because I have so few. And in the case of Aerotime, based on every technical factor out there, John, we are looking at a grand slam home run. 4,000, that'd be 40,000 shares, John. Let me lock in that trade right now and get back to you with my secretary with an exact confirmation. Sound good, John? Great. Hey, John, thank you for your vote of confidence, and welcome to the Investors Center. Bye-bye.
Video was showing that video clip from the Wolf of Wall Street is a con artist talking to a possible investor. And what he was doing, he was like giving him high promises. He was promoting a business that was smaller than he described. Like as you saw in the clip, it was a garage outside of somebody's house, but he was talking about it as a multi-million-dollar corporation. So this is what con artists do. They try to give you promises and give you guarantees so you can give your monies away. So now I'm going to share a couple of examples of what we've seen on Island and what our office has seen about some scams that have happened here. How big is the investment fraud? How big is the problem? So the FBI Honolulu office ranks the basic Ponzi scheme as top investment fraud schemes plaguing Hawaii investors. So because the reality of how important investment, like how important this is, and how much money is going out, is that we work with we partnership with the FBI to deal with these types of scams and schemes that are happening. So in the United States, billions of dollars are lost each year to investment fraud and scams. These scams affect both rich and poor, the sophisticated and the unsophisticated, the timid, the greedy, and the many elderly. So to show like how important we partner with our local law enforcement, the FBI, the SEC, the people on the national level, because con artists do take advantage of people in the public. We have partnerships with the state attorney's office, the local prosecutor's office, and the police department as well. So going over some examples of affinity fraud and Ponzi scheme. So we have here the case of Bruce Harada. So Bruce actually he um, defrauded about $2.2 million out of his investors, and this is about 20 upwards of 20 people. His active affinity group was active and retired city employees, and he worked with independent financial advisors with the Inc. North American Corporation, and we worked with the security service and city prosecutors to bring him to justice. He is currently incarcerated in Arizona at the Seguro Correction Center, and he'll be released in 2032. So he targeted the working community in Hawaii. He targeted the city employees and retired employees. Just think about like all the monies that you're working through right now to save for your retirement, and that is gone by making a bad choice. We have another case. This one was based in Maui. His name is Lloyd Kimura. He defrauded about $8 million from his. He was providing CPA services for his clients, and he was promising high returns. He was promising 8 to 12% returns, and that, as far as like investments, is really high. We worked with the FBI and Attorney General's office. He is currently incarcerated in California, and was just recently released this year in March, so 2021. So this last case is
A local concert promoter has been arrested for fraud. 56-year-old Turk Casimiro was arrested early this morning and charged with wire fraud. According to the federal indictment, Casimiro is accused of taking $638,000 from families who thought they were investing in concerts and events that never happened. Concert promoters are not required to be licensed in Hawaii. And this is not the first time something like this has happened. So we sent Bridget Namada to find out if that should change. Bridget?
Joe, I learned this investigation was a joint effort by both state and federal authorities who have been investigating Turk Casimiro for nearly 2 years now. And authorities say there could be more victims out there. 6 local families, $638,000 later, Turk Casimiro was arrested early this morning and spent the afternoon in federal court. Investigators say between 2013 to 2015, Casimiro convinced victims into investing in his events. He promised sponsorships and profits. The indictment lists events Casimiro claimed to promote to get money from investors. A rodeo in Waimanalo, a national music festival sponsored by Vans, and other events and concerts from big-name artists. But according to FBI Special Agent Tom Simon,
there was no such thing as the Vans Warped DJ Tour, and the indictment also alleges that Mr. Casimiro spent all this money on himself.
Just to recap, Turk Casimiro defrauded about $857,000 from 18 different investors. So his target group, he actually targeted family and friends for these investments and were used for personal expenses. We worked with the FBI to on this case, and the results is that he's currently in federal prison in California and will be released in 2024. So a good example of what this is, because when you're thinking of like, investments, like scams can happen to anybody anywhere. And because he was offering promotions for entertainment, so that's kind of like the way he went through. And because he wasn't able to be registered by the state, a lot of people fell for his lies. So just things to look out for when working with when you're trying to invest your monies. So here we have helpful resources here to help you to make better financial decisions and when you're going through. So the first thing I would like to share our Hawaii Fraud Prevention and Resource Guide, the 3rd edition. We worked with the Attorney General's office and the S&P Senior Medicare Patrol to help to get this guide together for our Hawaii community. And the guide, we're highlighting the different types of frauds and scams. And in here, there's a listing of the different types of scams that are out there, including Ponzi schemes and affinity fraud. So you can take a look at this book as well as other various things to look out for when dealing with Ponzi schemes. I have a financial investor education packet that I'd like to share with you. This is something that we're sharing with the public. So this is our virtual packet available for you. So inside this packet we have Okay, we have the Office of Securities Commissioner, our information, our contact information here on the corner. We have the different rows of the different offices, different divisions of our office. The table of contents, we have the fraud 101 brochure. We have a news release of top investor threats for 2021. We have the COVID-19 investor alert, as well as the COVID vaccine scams that we've seen in the past. So this is our fraud 101 packet. This is from FINRA, our national partner, and there's great information on here about the face of investment fraud, the psychology of a scam, so like the psychology of the scam, so you're not being taken advantage of, common tactics, so like great information that you can use to help protect you and yourself, your family. So investment fraud and the conversation. So we also have the it's going through. We also have this great resource, and this is a press release that released earlier this March on the top investor threats for 2021. And I believe there's 3 in here. There's great information and tips to look out for. We have the investor alert for COVID-related investment scams available for you. We got investor beware, some information about scammers, on people taking advantage of the volatility of the securities markets due to COVID and what we're dealing with today. If you are scammed, if you know of any scheme happening now, report it immediately. Report investment fraud to our office. Our number is on the screen at 586-2267. Or if you're on outer island, please call our toll-free number at 877-447-2267. We're also our office is on Merchant Street in downtown Honolulu. We do have some restrictions on who can enter our building due to the current mandates. However, please feel free to visit our website at www.investing.hawaii.gov. We have tons of information available for you online. Also, make sure to follow our social media outlets at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at High Securities. And we share daily financial education information as well as investment fraud info. Check out our word of the day for Catch the Wave for investor protection for the rest of this month of October. And at this time, we're going to see if we have any questions. Do you have any questions, Ryan? No questions. All right. So I want to thank you folks for joining us today. Thank you for just being with our presentation. We have great information here for you. And if you have any questions, if you're about investments, about educational material, resources that we have, please feel free to call our office and we'll have that available for you. And that's all. Have a great weekend and mahalo.